The neon signs of Neo Mumbai's entertainment district cast kaleidoscopic shadows across the rain-slicked streets as Laura Chen checked his credit balance one more time. 300 credits. Not even enough for this month's oxygen ration in the lower levels. When the anonymous message had pinged his neural implant offering 5,000 credits for a simple job, ruin someone's blind date, he'd barely hesitated before accepting. The target was Lisa Throndar, a Khazari engineer working at the terrestrial Khazari Diplomatic Research Facility. The instructions were simple: show up at the Nebula Cafe, pretend to be her blind date, and make the evening so unbearable she'd never want to date again. Laura didn't ask questions. 5,000 credits bought a lot of silence. He arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early, studying the briefing file his mysterious employer had provided. The Khazari, colloquially and somewhat offensively called dwarves by humans, were a species from the Caraxes system. They averaged 4 feet in height, possessed incredible physical strength relative to their size, and their civilization had mastered gravitational manipulation technology 2,000 years before humans discovered fire. Since first contact 20 years ago, relations had been cordial but distant. The Khazari found human emotional volatility disturbing. Humans found Khazari stoicism unnerving. Lisa Throndar appeared in the briefing photos as a typical Khazari female, broad-shouldered, with metallic silver skin that seemed to shimmer under certain lights, and deep amber eyes that reflected light like a cat's. Her file indicated she held 3 doctorate equivalents in quantum mechanics, gravitational engineering, and xenobiology. She'd been on Earth for 6 months, working on joint propulsion research. The cafe's atmospheric processors hummed softly as Laura settled into the reserved booth. Through the transparent aluminum windows, the sprawling megacity stretched endlessly, its towers piercing the smog layer that perpetually choked the lower atmosphere. Somewhere above that toxic blanket, the wealthy breathed clean air and never worried about credit balances. "Excuse me, are you Marcus?" Laura looked up to find Lisa standing beside the booth. She was smaller than he'd expected, barely reaching his chest, but her presence was somehow substantial. She wore a simple gray jumpsuit that accommodated the additional joints in her legs, and her silver skin caught the cafe's ambient lighting, creating subtle patterns like oil on water. Her amber eyes studied him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. Yeah, Marcus. You must be Lisa." Laura extended his hand, remembering the employer's first instruction: be inappropriately forward and physically invasive. Lisa's 3-fingered hand gripped his with surprising strength. Her bones were denser than human bone, her muscles compressed and efficient. "A pleasure to meet you," she said in flawless English, though her vocal apparatus gave her words a slight harmonic overtone. "Thank you for agreeing to this social experiment." "Social experiment?" Laura pulled his hand back, thrown off script already. "Is that not what dating is?" Lisa slid into the booth across from him, her movements precise and economical. 2 individuals testing mutual compatibility through structured social interaction. I've read extensively about human courtship rituals. They're fascinatingly chaotic. Laura felt a twinge of something uncomfortable, guilt maybe, but pushed it aside. 5,000 credits. He launched into the second instruction: dominate the conversation with boring, self-absorbed monologues. "Well, you're lucky to be here with me," he began, leaning back with exaggerated confidence. "I'm actually kind of a big deal in the data mining sector. Well, I was before the company restructured, but that was political, you know. They couldn't handle my innovative approaches. I tried explaining to the board that my algorithms were revolutionary, but corporate bureaucracy, am I right? Anyway, I'm between positions currently, but I've got like 15 different companies interested in my skills." He droned on, watching for signs of irritation or boredom. Instead, Lisa's amber eyes remained fixed on him with that same intense focus. When he finally paused for breath, she leaned forward slightly. "Your physiological indicators suggest you're experiencing significant stress," she said calmly. Elevated heart rate, dilated pupils, increased perspiration at the temples and palms. Additionally, your speech patterns exhibit multiple deception markers, decreased blinking, rigid facial expressions, and verbal qualifiers that indicate uncertainty about your statements. Laura's mouth went dry. What? Khazari evolved as prey species before developing sentience, Lisa explained matter-of-factly. Our survival depended on reading microexpressions and physiological cues in predators. These traits remain useful in social interactions, though I understand humans find direct observation of their emotional states uncomfortable. Should I pretend not to notice? No, Laura fumbled for the script, moving to instruction 3, make inappropriate comments about her appearance and species. Look, I gotta be honest. When they said I'd be meeting an alien I didn't expect. I mean, you're pretty short, you know. Do all your people look so compact? Something flickered in Lisa's eyes. Not hurt exactly, but something more complex. She was quiet for a moment, and Laura felt the weight of that silence pressing against his chest. Yes, she said finally. Khazari physiology developed under 1.4 times Earth gravity. Our compressed structure is biomechanically optimal for high-gravity environments. What humans perceive as short, we consider efficiently proportioned. She paused. That was meant to be insulting, wasn't it? Laura opened his mouth, then closed it. The guilt was back, stronger now. Someone paid you to do this. It wasn't a question. Lisa's voice remained even, almost academic. The statistical probability of encountering this specific configuration of behaviors naturally is approximately 0.003%. You're following a script designed to create negative emotional responses. How did you? I told you, we're very good at reading others. Lisa tilted her head, studying him with those unsettling amber eyes. The question is, why would someone pay to sabotage a blind date? And more importantly, why would you accept? Laura felt something crack inside him. Maybe it was her complete lack of anger, or the way she analyzed the situation like a fascinating puzzle rather than a personal attack. Maybe it was remembering his credit balance and realizing he was selling whatever dignity he had left for the price of another month in the lower levels. 5,000 credits, he said quietly. That's why. Lisa nodded slowly. Economic desperation. That's actually quite logical. 5,000 credits represents approximately 3 months of lower-level subsistence income. Given Earth's current inequality metrics, I estimate 67% of the human population would accept similar offers under comparable circumstances. You're not angry. Why would I be angry at you? Lisa seemed genuinely puzzled. You're a victim of the same exploitative economic system that necessitated this entire scenario. The entity deserving anger is whoever hired you. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Show me the message. Laura hesitated, then pulled up his neural implant interface, projecting the anonymous job offer into the air between them. Lisa studied it, her eyes moving with inhuman speed as she absorbed the data. Encrypted routing through 7 proxy servers, payment delivered via untraceable cryptocurrency, origin point carefully obscured. She leaned back. Someone with significant technical sophistication and financial resources wants me isolated and demoralized. The question is who and why. You talk about this like it's a research problem, Laura said. All problems are research problems. For the first time, something like a smile crossed Lisa's face, not quite human, but unmistakably warm. Would you like to know something interesting about Khazari psychology, Laura? He blinked. How did you know my real name? Your credit transaction when you entered the cafe. I have access to public financial networks. All Khazari do, it's how we prevent fraud in our society, but that's beside the point. She leaned forward again. Khazari don't experience loneliness the way humans do. We're not a social species by nature. We appreciate cooperation and find certain individuals fascinating, but we don't have your need for emotional connection. This blind date, I arranged it purely as cultural research. To understand human bonding rituals. So, you don't actually care that someone tried to ruin it? Oh, I care immensely, Lisa said, and now her voice carried an edge Laura hadn't heard before. Because whoever hired you revealed something important. They believe I can be manipulated through social isolation. They think I'm vulnerable in the same ways humans are vulnerable. That suggests they fundamentally misunderstand Khazari psychology, or they're desperately trying multiple vectors of attack and hoping something works. Laura felt a chill run down his spine. Attack? What are you working on that's worth attacking? Lisa was quiet for a long moment, her amber eyes studying him with that predatory intensity. Finally, she seemed to reach a decision. Are you familiar with the Chandra limit problem? No. It's the reason humanity is trapped in this solar system. Why, despite mastering fusion power and constructing orbital habitats, you can't reach the stars. Lisa's fingers drummed on the table, a surprisingly human gesture. Faster-than-light travel requires warping spacetime itself. The energy requirements are astronomical, literally. Current human technology would need to convert the mass of Jupiter into pure energy for a single one-light-year jump. It's impossible. But the Khazari can do it. Not exactly. We manipulate localized gravity fields to create what you might call shortcuts through higher dimensional space. But our technology is biological, integrated into our neural structure over millennia of directed evolution. It can't be replicated mechanically, can't be taught. She paused. Until now, potentially. Laura felt his pulse quicken. You're building a human FTL drive. I'm working on the theoretical framework that might eventually lead to such a device, yes. If successful, it would change everything. Humanity could reach the stars, colonize new worlds, end the resource scarcity that keeps billions trapped in poverty. Her eyes found his. It would also disrupt some very powerful economic interests. The corporations controlling Earth's limited resources have trillions of credits invested in maintaining the current system. FTL technology would make their holdings worthless overnight. Understanding crashed over Laura like a wave. So they're trying to sabotage your research by isolating you, making you miserable so you'll give up and go home. Precisely. Though I suspect tonight's gambit was a preliminary probe, testing my psychological resilience through relatively minor social disruption. If it had worked, they'd escalate. More invasive harassment, perhaps threats. Lisa smiled again, sharper this time. They made one critical error, though. What's that? They assumed I was alone. Laura met her eyes, seeing something new there, not loneliness or vulnerability, but calculation, strategy. You want to use me. I want to offer you a job, Lisa corrected. 5,000 credits to ruin a date. I'll pay you 10,000 monthly to help me identify who's targeting my research. You understand human social dynamics. You're desperate enough to be motivated but clever enough to recognize exploitation. Most importantly, you've already proven you can pretend to be someone you're not, a useful skill in counterintelligence. I'm not a spy. Neither am I. I'm an engineer. But someone's declared war on my work, and I need allies who understand how humans wage economic and social warfare. She extended her three-fingered hand across the table. Also, if I'm being honest, your willingness to admit your motivations when caught was refreshing. Humans usually lie more stubbornly. Laura stared at her hand, his mind racing. This was insane. He was a failed data analyst, not a corporate counterintelligence agent. But he thought about the lower levels, the toxic air, the endless grinding poverty that defined life for anyone not born into the elite. He thought about Lisa, working to give humanity the stars, and the faceless corporations that would rather keep everyone trapped and desperate. He reached out and gripped her hand. I want 15,000 monthly. Lisa's laugh was like wind chimes, utterly alien but somehow delightful. 12,000 and I teach you basic gravitational field theory. Knowledge is worth more than credits in the long term. Deal. As they shook on it, Laura felt something shift inside him. He'd come here to ruin someone's evening for pocket change. Instead, he'd stumbled into something bigger, a conspiracy that spanned worlds, economic warfare fought in shadows, and a small alien engineer who saw problems where others saw disasters. "So," Lisa said, settling back in her booth with an expression that might have been satisfaction, "since we're now colleagues, perhaps we should actually have dinner. I'm told the synthetic protein here is merely mediocre rather than actively poisonous. I've always wanted to understand why humans consider shared meals bonding experiences." Laura found himself smiling, genuinely this time. It's about vulnerability, sitting together, sustaining ourselves, lowering our guards. Fascinating. Lisa flagged down a server drone. "Then let's be vulnerable together, Laura Chen. And while we eat, you can tell me everything you know about corporate intelligence networks in Neo Mumbai. I suspect we'll need that information soon." As they ordered food, Lisa curiously selecting dishes she'd only read about, Laura recommending options that wouldn't bankrupt his new salary, he realized something profound had shifted. He'd been paid to ruin this evening. Instead, this strange, brilliant alien had offered him purpose, partnership, and the chance to be part of something that mattered. Maybe, Laura thought, watching Lisa's silver skin shimmer in the neon light, this wasn't such a terrible blind date after all. Outside, the megacity sprawled endlessly beneath its blanket of smog. But somewhere above that darkness, the stars waited, and now, impossibly, they felt just a little bit closer.